Hey there, Emmanuel here from WebDevFuel and welcome back. In today's video, we'll go over how to create a button component using Go and templ. So by the end of the video, we'll have these 8 different buttons that we can easily create without having to specify the classes over and over again. And if you want to get access to these code examples, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below so you can access the GitHub repo. First, we want to start by specifying our own types for the button's attributes or class names. First, we have this button type, which is an int, and then we specify both variations that this button type can have. So it can either be submit or a button. Then we specify the type on the first constant and we say equals iota. And now this one is going to be 0 and this one is going to be 1. And by adding both of these things to our code base, we'll have a button type that's type safe. Next, we want to attach a string method to the button type, and this is going to return a string. Then we switch based on the button type, and if the button type is button, we want to return this string, and if it is submit, we want to return this other string. Next, we do the exact same thing for the button color. We say here button color primary and then secondary. Then we also add this string method, and if it is primary, we want to add both of these classes. First we have this background primary, and then on hover we want to add this background primary dark. And for the secondary, we do the exact same thing. Next, we do the same thing for the button size, which can either be medium, small, or large. And by default, the button is always going to be medium. And then we also attach this string method. And if the button size is medium, we want to add this padding and rounded XL. If it is small, we want to add both of these for padding, rounded large and text small. And finally, if it is large, we want to add both of these for the padding, and finally the rounded is also going to be XL. Then we have the button struct with all of its fields, which are type, color, size, and disabled. And finally, we have this function that initializes a new button, which we'll be using inside of our templates to render a button, in which we pass as an argument a slice of options. And an option is simply a function that takes as an argument a pointer to a button struct. Inside of this function, we start by initializing the button struct, then we range through each one of the options, and we then call each individual option by passing the button as an argument. And since we are passing a pointer to the button, it is going to be mutable, so the function itself can mutate the button's fields. And finally, we return the button down here. Next, we need to specify all of our button option functions. First, we say here with button type, this is going to take a button type, and it is going to return a function that takes again a pointer to the button as an argument. So that's exactly what we want to do down here. We pass here this return function, and then we say here button.type equals bt, which is the argument that we grab from here. We then do the exact same thing for the button color, for the size, and also for the disabled state. Then, to be able to render this inside of a template without having to call any additional methods, we do the following. We add this render method attached to this type, and then we take as an argument, first of all, a context and then an IO writer, and this returns an error. Then inside of the function, we call the button template, which we'll take a look at in just a second. We pass as an argument the pointer to the button, and then we call the render method with the context and the IO writer. Finally, we get to the template itself, which takes as an argument a pointer to the button struct. And then inside of the template, we render our button element. We use this question mark syntax to render this attribute based on the value being true or false. So if b.disable is true, this attribute is going to be rendered, and if not, it is going to be ignored. Then we render the type by saying b.type.string. So we want to call the string method to render the string based on the type. And then to render the class, we want to call this classes function that joins all of the strings that we pass into it as an argument. So first of all, we have this class, which is going to be added to all of our buttons, no matter the color or the size. And then to add the classes for the color and the size, we want to say b.color.string and b.size.string. And finally, to render the button text, we use this syntax to display the button's children. If you want to learn more about how to build web applications with HTMX, Go, and PostgreSQL, then go to webdevfuel.com/hgsb or click the link in the description down below to join the HTMX Go SES blueprint. Now, let's move to the index.templ file and let's take a look at exactly how this looks when we want to create a new button inside of a template. So, as you can see, this is a simple button which has no options and has the text of click me. Since we are passing no options into this button, it is going to use the default fields. So the type is going to be button, the color is going to be primary, the size is going to be medium, and disabled is going to be false by default. Then to change the button's attributes or classes, we pass options into it. So we can say here component.newButton, and we say component with button color, and we pass the color that we want this button to have. In this case, component.button color secondary. So this button is going to be rendered with the secondary color. Here we have an example where we change the button size. So we say component.widthButtonSize, and then we say component.buttonSize SM, which stands for small. And then we have a bunch of different variations of our button, including buttons where we can pass multiple options into it, like this one, which is going to be small, and it's going to have the color secondary. And we can also dim the opacity of the button and set the disabled attribute on the element by saying component with button disabled and passing true as an argument. And the result is going to be what we saw at the beginning of the video. So we have here 8 different buttons with different attributes and classes. This one, for example, has the primary color, and this one has the secondary color. Then we have different sizes. This one has different padding because we told templ that we want to render this button with the large size. And we also have both of these buttons which have the disabled attribute. And as a bonus, since we are using Go, we get type safety included with all of these. So if I were to try and pass here something that is not related to the color, so let's say that I pass here button size large, then we are going to see an error and will not be able to compile this code, which gives us much more confidence when rendering our templates. So this is it. By using this functional pattern in Go, we can easily create reusable components with the help of templ, and as a result create components that we can use across our web application without having to specify the classes or the attributes over and over again, which provides us with a great developer experience. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I'll see you on the next one.